If you watch the Super Bowl, then you probably saw the HIMS and HERS ad, specifically the HIMS stock. And if you don't know, it's been on a pretty much massive tear over the past year. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting what's happening here. And if you look at what's really driving the sales of the company and what's been the game changer for them. And I think the Super Bowl ad was really cool. And then at the end, you were like, I don't know if I support that, right? Because what's been driving the sales of HIMS has been their like off-brand generic version of Ozempic. It's just another brand of it, right? And so we have this massive obesity crisis here in America. Everyone's overweight. I got kind of fat over the past 2 years, right? But it's the biggest pandemic that no one really talks about. And HIMS commercial went completely in detail of it. And it's funny that they kind of exposed themselves, which I thought was silly, right? It was really silly that they would do that from a financial standpoint, because I think this will eventually get some investigation, but until then, HIMS stock will probably continue ripping. Looking at what's happening here, their market cap is around $9.7 billion. Their earnings as well have been pretty fantastic, all things considered. A growing theme of what you'll see me mention here is what's happening here with revenue. Really, if you want to dumb things down a lot, you can really just look at companies, what their revenue is, their growth, and go look at their margins for a better example. And you can even plug most of their earnings into ChatGPT and say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and it will. It can even make you graphs. But for the sake of the video, we'll do it really quick. What you've seen over the past year, right, was a miss, 280 million, but still kind of growing, right? 280, 315, 41 was the most recent. Pretty fantastic, right? Pretty fantastic. And then you have their earnings coming up here as well, February 24th, which will probably be pretty big. Expecting 470, probably comes in closer to $500 million. Again, compared to some of these other crazy evaluated companies, it's not doing that bad, right? It's almost at the $500 million marker per quarter. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. Now, PE ratio is sitting at around like a 90, give or take. But something that I compare this to, and again, this stock is much larger. It's a much larger company than HIMS. Okay, so I want that to be clear. This is like a little baby boy version, right? But it's Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly has been on a tear. If I go to like to the 1 day chart, you can see this chart has gone monstrous, right? I would compare Eli Lilly. It's one of the major names, something it's underneath United Healthcare, but it's still a big boy out there. Okay, giving you, for instance, we go to Eli Lilly LLY. Market cap is at $784 billion. Okay, point I'm making here. When it comes to small caps, HIMS is interesting. HIMS is interesting because right now it's not. I don't think it's ethical, really, how they're making the money. But is anything in pharma ethical whatsoever? When I look at the HIMS chart, I mean, it's a beast. We talked about this way back, but coming back into 25.5, retesting it was absurd. Now, am I a buyer at $44? No, I am not. That is kind of crazy right now, right? You don't want to buy something at the top. Just like Palantir, I'm not buying options at these highs. Now, if we can start to get a pullback, you're speaking to me, right? $35, $33 where I'd be looking for this to get interesting. But the more I look at them, the more interested I get, right? I mean, this thing has been a beast. The chart's been awesome. And their numbers I don't think are going to slow down. Because there's a few things in America that I can count on. It's people doing the same stupid crap and then expecting different results. And I do think America will remain very, very fat. So again, I think HIMS will be in business. And remember, this really, and don't search up HIMS ER as an earnings report. It will show up a different result. And then you'll get some ads for that, which we don't really need right now. However, if you pass me the honey pack, will I decline? I don't know. But looking at HIMS overall, I think it's in a position that this will continue to do what it's doing, especially if they keep compounding on this. Now, the question is how do they branch out? How do they get more growth? And the real question is if you start to see more legislation against this generic drug, which I do anticipate something should happen. It should. However, If you don't, you'll see HIMS just keep going, right? This, in all purposes, I'm not Mr. Pump these names, right? This could become a $100 stock, $80 give or take, right? Just getting to a 20 billion market cap. The fact that honestly, I was prepared to see like a 25 billion market cap. Kind of shocked it isn't. Some of the names that we've seen run, again, these are different sectors, but overall, you go and see this hasn't had the craziest run compared to the others, right? Going looking at Reddit, for instance. Reddit's one of the biggest movers on the year. I mentioned this a lot in a lot of my short form content, but I was a big advocate of Reddit going back into $70 when he broke out of 75. Like it was a massive opportunity. Since then, the value has basically 3x'd. That's insanity. Since basically October of this year, Reddit has 3x'd. That is crazy to think about. That is wild to think about, right? Go off another name like Kava, right? Again, got above $58. Really, the buy was here at 48, but got above $58 bounce retest. Boom, shot up. And it's important that we look at examples. Now, again, these are different sectors. Again, these are all three major different sectors, right? But the point is when they get momentum and they get a strategy that works with Kava's strategy was pretty, and this is a great example because Kava's at 16 billion, right? And what is Kava's earnings? Let's go look really quick. Kava recent earnings. I'm pretty familiar with Kava actually. Kava's basically formula was let's do the Chipotle shuffle, right? Let's do it. Let's see if we can follow up. Great example. Fantastic example. We could go over more margins, and I would be willing to bet that HIMS's margins are better than Kava's. Again, it's not, I don't want to be highlighting and buying only names with gross PE ratios. This is interesting. Kava's most recent earnings in December expected 233, brought in 243. HIMS is doing double. HIMS is actively doing double, and it's worth about half the price. Again, totally different sector. But again, you can see what's happening with some of these names. It's really funny. This is also hilarious. I never knew that Zoe's Kitchen and Kava were the same owners. Did not know that. Zoe's Kitchen said, you know what? The Jewish people are currently not in. There's a lot of Jewish hate out there. We're switching over to the other side of the Mediterranean. We're going Kava. Wild. Totally worked. Anyways, point here too is this is interesting. This is definitely interesting. And I wouldn't get so wrapped up also in these PE ratios. And I know you're like, Tyler, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? AMD. You said you hate AMD. I hate AMD because it has a shitty PE ratio and the company isn't growing at all and the stock is doing nothing. If you're not getting momentum, you're not getting hype, you're not getting any type of traction whatsoever as a stock, and you're in one of the hottest sectors out there, yeah, that's a red flag. But when you look at what HIMS is doing, they're in a pretty hot sector. Pharmaceuticals is a hot sector. People love great margins, and people love when you see good growth. And HIMS is having good growth. You have earnings coming up in about 2 weeks. I'll probably have another update around the earnings time. I like it. It's actually 2 weeks from today, I believe. This is a hot one. I'm a big fan here. I do believe this is a bold pick here. But I do think HIMS is a big winner. I really do. I would not be surprised if we come back here 3 to 4 months and this is a doubler. This could be a doubler. If you have any questions, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'll probably be making a Tesla video very soon as well. I think it's getting wrecked. But have a good one, traders.